Hey everyone, it's Brennan with BC Labs, and today we're doing something a little bit better late than never. We're going to go ahead and do our Quest 3 review. So with that, let's get started. So the Quest 3 versus the Quest 2, there's a much bigger difference in the way the controllers are laid out. You have a large tracking ring here on the Quest 2 versus Quest 3 does not have one at all. The lights are embedded, I can't remember if it's on the face or if it's on this lip, and then there's also one near the bottom. So tracking is probably a little bit more difficult for the headset. However, they overcome this with software and machine learning. In practice, I saw no issues with using the Quest 3 tracking on the controller. If anything, it was better. I haven't tested it in every single situation, but it felt much easier to use, especially in a shooting game where you end up having your hands either really close together with a pistol or up to your cheek when you're aiming down sight. In terms of comfort, though, it's even bigger difference. So, in terms of facial interfaces, the Quest 3's is a little bit more flexible in the way it's designed. It feels a little more fragile. However, because of this button, which you've probably seen in some other information about the Quest 3, this button lets it slide in and out to accommodate glasses. You have to adjust both sides independently, so that's pretty cool that it is adjustable. This is versus the VR cover one, which I was given after a period with my Quest 2, where this material is much better. I do like this leatherette like cushion. However, the design here does let more airflow in, but at the cost that you don't really have an option with or without glasses, as far as I can tell. Because although the design is very similar, I could never get this glass interface to slip right there, but I was pretty much fixed where this would always kind of make my glasses feel a little too close to the lenses. And I think that has caused some scratching. I don't feel this issue applies to the Quest 3, though, because again, you can adjust this on the fly. You don't have to worry about taking this all the way off and swapping it. If you give it to a friend and let them borrow it, it's as easy as pressing these two buttons and moving it. I really do like this design, even if the material is less comfortable than this leatherette. It does not come with a blinder for the light here, which comes in pretty similar to the stock Quest 2 interface. You can, of course, buy aftermarket ones, but it's a bit of an oversight. A little bit frustrating. Especially because this one is more rounded, and this one was at least closer to the shape of a nose. So it kind of did block most of the light. While this one, you can tell, there's a lot of room there for it to let light bleed in. Anyway, so that's as far as the interface comfort. In terms of actual weight distribution, though, the Quest 3 sits much closer to your face. And I did again, in my short, I did try to demonstrate this as much as possible. So you can see, without the facial interfaces, there's a pretty sizable difference in where if you line these up on the front, and that's not even a true it's not even the full picture because this is a rounded front versus this is pretty square. You can tell there's a pretty sizable, probably a centimeter difference in thickness. From where the lenses are to the front of the device. Same for here. So it just creates better weight distribution. I can't really go back. It's very difficult to go back to the Quest 2 after using the Quest 3 in terms of comfort. Except for the straps. These straps are pretty bad. They're not the worst, but they're pretty bad. I don't have a lot of kind things to say about them, except that when laying down, this materialized, like this material style coated plastic clip system, at least feels a little better when you're laying on your back if you're in bed or something, which is better than these really hard plastic ones on the Quest 2. And that's about the only positive thing I can say, is that at least you don't have this lump in the back and these two hard pieces of plastic. When you are tightening this against your head, though, it feels like it never puts pressure in the right spots, and it's always either putting a little bit of pain on either side, or it feels like it's loose and it just kind of flops around. So, not a big fan. I have my Bobo VR M2 somewhere, and it's getting retrofitted this next week. So I'll be doing a full review on that. and as well as the batteries for that matter. It's definitely okay in a pinch, and if I was sitting on a plane or something, it's probably worth the trade-off of the compactness. That's probably why Meta goes with this, not just price, but think about how much easier it is to stow that in a bag with your controllers versus something that comes out here, and it's just much more travel-sized. And so I get it. I get the choice. So I think that's it for comfort. I think I've touched on all the problems I have with it, because the weight distribution, night and day difference, even though the weight here is almost the same. Then you have the strap, I've said my piece, good and bad. Controllers, much more comfortable to hold, I would say, just because you don't have to worry about bumping them into each other when you're in VR. That's something that some games, since you can't see the ring, you will do that. You can still hit a wall with it, though. And the fact that the haptics do add some more intricate gameplay. But yeah, I think overall, I would say this is an improvement over the Quest 2. There are better headsets for comfort, but in terms of standalone, I haven't seen one. Alright, in terms of optics and clarity, the Quest 3 wins hands down. There's not even a comparison. The Quest 3, you don't have that problem. You have a continuous IPD adjustment, and it makes it way easier to adjust. It still sticks sometimes, so you might have to put a little bit of firm pressure, but for the most part, it's very easy to adjust between various positions. And so I'm able to get really close to my natural IPD, but honestly, the pancake lenses on here are fantastic. So between the IPD adjustment and the pancake lenses, I love it. Anyway, I think that's all the stuff that I can show you on the headset itself. Let's cut over to some of the experience, the gameplay experience. I'm picking Synth Riders as my first mixed reality experience to show off because I feel like it does the best job of kind of really showcasing. So, I mean, look at how wild the room scanning feature is. I know all the mixed reality apps use this, but every time it kind of gets me. I guess not all of them use it. All of them that require room scale versus some of them don't really need your full room. They just need to check for furniture. But I mean, it gets in every corner, and it does a good job even going around certain furniture pieces. Just wild to me. So Synth Riders, I think, is cool just because it projects on both the wall opposite of you as well as the wall behind you, and it really melds you into this kind of concept of mixed reality. It's not like virtual reality is being brought into your world, and it's not the other way around. It's truly mixed. That said, though, the pass-through quality, as I said earlier and showed off, it could be improved. But when you're in the middle of one of these experiences, that kind of melts away. You're focusing on the fact that these things are truly being coupled in a way that you couldn't enjoy them otherwise. So I think for the most part, you don't really focus on it. Forgive me, I'm not that great at Synth Riders, but I'm just giving it a shot here just to show off how awesome this experience is. So the one cool thing is when I get a chance, I'm going to try to turn around, but only when I'm not going to like lose because I get a chance. So this is not my go-to game. I think I play Beat Saber more, but I think that the fact that they built in the opportunity to do mixed reality on this is a nice selling point, especially a lot of devs aren't giving their games that extra touch. It doesn't change the way you play the game, it just changes the way you can interact with it and gives you a different way to enjoy it, especially if you're in a place where you don't necessarily have the luxury of turning off the visual of your surroundings. Maybe you have pets that you got to watch out for, and they're in the room with you or something. This is a nice option. So briefly, you kind of saw there as I turned around, you can actually see them come through. It's just crazy. I think that really just makes it a bigger sell than even, which we're about to switch over to First Encounters. I think First Encounters really shows off the power of mixed reality with this busting through the ceiling scene. It's really cool. I can't really talk about mixed reality without at least dipping into the battery issue, at least briefly. It does seem like a lot of users are getting about 1.5 hours with mixed reality. Some a little bit less, some more. As I've used my headset for several charge cycles, it seems like the battery's gotten better, where I'm getting around 2 hours consistently, being constantly in pass-through with hand tracking. I haven't timed it, but that's my estimate from all doing a few
screenshots at different points as I use it with timestamps, I'm getting about 2 hours. Sometimes I've gotten closer to the 1.5 hour mark, but generally I have been getting around 2 hours, using mixed reality and some virtual reality. So that's the bottom end I would say to expect, but some people are getting more like 2.5 plus. But that's the big issue with this headset right now, is the battery life could be better. And it hasn't been too kind to work with some of the traditionally functional third-party battery options. Like the Elite strap has upgraded its voltage so that it's a little higher, and it seems to perform adequately, but a lot of third-party batteries are not up to the task with the Quest 3. So that is something to keep in mind. I'm going to be doing a comprehensive analysis soon of some of the battery drain issues people have been talking about, but the stock headset is getting reasonable battery for what you're getting, but it is a downgrade from the Quest 2. And I just wanted to take a moment because this awesome fun with fighting the puffins and all that is where I first kind of started messing with mixed reality and kind of noticing, it does drain the battery faster. I mean, I'm constantly in pass-through for hand tracking to use all my menus, so I've been pretty fortunate for the battery life I've been getting, I'd say. Alright, so here we go. I just switched over to virtual desktop just to show off. I think I'm having some router issues, but I was able to get a pretty stable frame rate and decent latency playing Blade and Sorcerer from my PC over virtual desktop. Honestly, always enjoyed jumping in this game, even though it doesn't necessarily run the best on my PC. It doesn't seem to always perform to what I would expect it should. But the experience was pretty smooth overall. I could be better, but I think I need to tweak my router a little bit. But I didn't have any issues getting it connected to the Quest 3, and it seemed like the decoding side on the Quest was very fast. It was a very small portion of the overall latency. So I think it's great. I wish I could crank the graphics up, but again, I was having some technical difficulties on my end and wanted to at least get some footage for you all that actually enjoy PCVR. I know it's a major selling point for some of these wireless headsets, even if it's not the normal use case. But away from all these positives, I want to go over into some of the more functional features and problems of the headset. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the the Meta browser, because I was running into some issues on YouTube in particular. So a lot of people talked about how Netflix and other streaming services have special encoding and DRM, and there is some problems for using the stock browser with this. Some people suggested sideloading a browser or trying to use the native apps, although sideloading isn't necessarily the best solution if you can avoid it, just because you shouldn't have to go through those steps to use your headset. And then using the native apps, they haven't been updated in forever, it seems. So you're not really getting the newest features, and you don't necessarily get to take advantage of mixed reality on most of those. So the first issue is when we go full screen here. It switches the window system from the flat and grabbable, manipulatable new interface that they've been moving to on Quest 2 and Quest 3 and Quest Pro in the last few updates. But when you full screen it, it projects it on the wall. And we'll get into a minute how that affects other apps, but it's frustrating because what if you wanted to just fill up that little tablet size screen, but full screen of that? You shouldn't have to change the way you're viewing your video just to make it full screen on that tablet. So it's a little frustrating because you can't get around that. That's your two options. If you switch the view mode in your settings, it doesn't change. This is how it just behaves. At least you can go full screen, but little annoying, I would say. And this isn't just a YouTube issue. There's an issue with that on using other apps. Like I was able to sideload CollaboraOffice and A-Code and Godot Engine. I was trying to make more productivity options available for the headset. And so you can sideload these, but you cannot resize them once they are opened unless you change the viewport mode to this kind of curve projection mode. You can't have that flat screen app that you can manipulate, and then you can't resize the screen in that. And that's really frustrating because once you switch manipulation mode to this projection style, your keyboard no longer is something you can tap on. Instead, it's on the wall, and you have to point with your hands or with your controller, and one at a time, tap, 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 tap. And that's just not functional. That's not the correct way that you should have to interface with it. You should be able to manipulate the display formatting and how you interact with it in the keyboard independently. So that's a little bit of a point of frustration for me. The other point of frustration is a lot of these apps, again, like as I said, LibreOffice, somebody else mentioned Office 365 works. These things should be available on the store. Like, I didn't have to do any modification. I downloaded the APK and I sideloaded it. The developers should be courted by Meta to bring over more apps from the Google Play App Store. Like, I understand that if they're tied with Google Play services, that might take a bit of effort for the devs, but honestly, besides changing how the inner key works on apps contextually, as well as letting you stretch apps like this in both curved mode and flat mode, Meta doesn't have to do a ton to their UI to make it ready for these kinds of spatial computing applications. They're ahead of Apple, but not by their own choice, but because you can sideload Android applications. They really just need to put in a tiny amount of effort to really bring it over and bring the heat to Apple. Overall, I really enjoy the headset. I think it's totally worth the money, whether that's as an upgrade to the Quest 2 or as a standalone purchase. So, anyway, I hope that's enough information that helps kind of inform you a bit. I just want to take a moment and thank you all my new subscribers, all of my viewers. I really appreciate the support. I did not expect the kind of reaction that I got with my first Quest 3 video. I really appreciate it. It means so much to me, and I hope that you guys tune in for some of my new content that's coming in. I'm going to be doing stuff, of course, on the Quest 3. I have a few videos kind of planned out and in the queue, but I also have some of my 3D printing content and some of the computers I built that I've content for that I haven't cut. So I have a backlog of video that I just haven't put on. So really excited about that, and hope you guys tune in. I really appreciate it. See you guys next time.